lot of 2D game engines out there like Unity, Godot and Construct, but they all have one thing in common. I don't like them, and that's very personal, and because of that I've been making 2D games with no game engines for a while. And actually I already did a video on why you don't need a game engine for 2D games, but well, let's be a little bit honest here, it's way better and fun to use a game engine for that purpose. And as you guys know, making game engines is one of my favorite things. Actually, I'm a senior game engine developer and I do have a commercial game engine being developed, which is Cave. So I decided to take this moment and make a 2D game engine for my own games, and of course, why not share this with you and the entire world. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something simple that I will be able to literally open, and with a few seconds I will be able to start writing my 2D games. So in this video you're gonna see this amazing game engine, and there's a surprise because there's a video coming because I did this entire project in 30 hours. Actually it was 33, but check the results and subscribe to this channel if you want to see how I did it and the exactly time lapse of me writing this entire beast in 33 hours. So subscribe here and let's go to the video. Alright, so I'm here with the game engine, and straight away you can see the viewport, the hierarchy tab, the resources where you will find the scenes, the images, the audios and scripts, and the details tab that, of course, if I select an object, you can see all the details and play around with everything you want, including the color and the textures. But something very important that you can see here is that this engine, I wanted it to be as straightforward as possible for you to start making games, because like most game engines, as Unreal or Unity, and even my game engine, which is Cave, does have a launcher. So if you open the engine, there's a launcher and you need to create a project in your disk, and it may take a while to load, it may take a bunch of disk space, and well, it's just annoying, it takes a lot of time, and I did not want it to do that in this engine. That's why as soon as you open the engine, you can literally start making some tests, some prototypes. I can like select this cube, change the color, I can duplicate this cube. Let me do some copies of this white cube here. If I hold Alt and drag the cube, it's gonna create a copy. And by the way, right mouse button and mouse wheel moves the camera around, and left mouse button moves the object. And if I hit play here, you can see that it works right away, and I don't even have a project loaded, which is pretty cool. I can make my tests and then close the engine if I don't want it, or save the project with Ctrl+S, or go into File and save in the project. But let me load the project. So I can click here in File Load, or I can just hit Ctrl+O to load a new project, and I do have a demo project here. And something very important is you can see the size of the project. It's not even 1 megabyte, and this project does have images and stuff like that, and it only weighs 600 kilobytes because of the images. Because if I was making like a low poly flat shaded project, it will probably weigh literally nothing. So that's very cool. And another thing that I wanted to do in this game engine is most game engines, like Cave including, does create a bunch of files in your disk, creates a folder with other folders and files and files and files, and takes a lot of space. I did not wanted that in this engine. I wanted to be as straightforward as possible, and that's exactly why the engine only saves a single file, and it's super lightweight. So if I click here to open, you can see here that I do have my project loaded and ready to go. And I've imported for this demo some images here. They are all from Kine, so you can see here low poly, like pixel art images. There's no option to add smooth linear interpolation in the image, so it's always pixel art style. I will add that later on, but for this initial build, there's no way to not have the pixel art. And you can see all the images here loaded and working. Let me play this game. It's a simple game. There's no logic. Basically, you can just see the boxes falling and you can walk left and right. And it also shows the filtering here in the physics, because like the player does not collide with the box, but that was on purpose. I can change this, but I'm gonna go ahead and show you that in a second. But like the engine is very straightforward. Like there's a scene tab, and I do have like 2 scenes. I have a test scene with other basically the box, but with the player sprite, and I do have the main scene. And if I go ahead here in project settings, I can literally select the project name, like my super
game and select the main scene, and I can even reduce or increase the resolution. So if I reduce the resolution of the game, it literally updates live here. So this is how this game looks like in 128 by 72. This is the resolution. So let me go back to HD. Here we go. And I can pretty much do all that. And of course, if I go to File and Export Game, it will use this main scene here to export the game. So I can create a new folder. So my super game, and select the folder here, and boom, it exported the game. It's literally here, and you can start, you can ship this and share with everyone. It's super simple to export a game. This is the directory. I'm not gonna open the directory here right now, but trust me, this is the game exported, okay?
And before you continue, something very cool that I've been planning. Well, many people put in the comments like all these years for me to start teaching how to make game engines, and there's a surprise in this one, because I did this to use it as my personal 2D game engine, and of course to share with the world so everyone can use it as well. But I also did this game engine as a base for a full and complete course on how to make a game engine from scratch. We're going to be teaching everything, literally everything, from linking the project to literally planning the architecture of the game engine, using the libraries, making a UI and editor, how to export a game, how to add scripting languages to it, and a bunch more. So I'm planning it to be the most complete course that I know about it when it comes to game engine development. And I have to say that I'm very excited because I've been planning to do this for a while, but I really wanted to have a solid foundation and a base for that. And now, after so many time developing game engines and even working in the professional industry with amazing and huge games, now I'm finally confident to make this a reality. Unfortunately, it's not easy and cheap to make a course like that. It took me like more than 30 hours to even make this game engine. Imagine how many time it would take for me to record and edit and plan everything. So it's not going to be here on YouTube, but I promise that it's going to be worth it. So for those who are interested in making your own game engine, I'm going to leave a link here in the description for you to put your email address, so I will notify you when it gets done, because this is going to also serve as a base and as a foundation for you to make any kind of game engine you want to. And don't worry, I'm not going to send you a bunch of spam emails. I'm only notifying you when the course gets done, okay? So let's go back to the video.
Let's keep going and exploring everything in this engine. Something very important, like a core principle of this game engine, is the way the scene works, because you can see here that I do have a bunch of objects here in the hierarchy, as you can expect. So this is a box, this is another box, this is a player, can move the player around, move everything around, but everything is inside those tabs here. And what is this tabs? This is a layer, and what is important about the layer here is that this will define the draw order. For example, the background does have a sky entity with a sky texture. This is the sky texture. I can go ahead in images, Sky 1, this is the background texture, and it does have this object, and it's being rendered below, like behind the other objects, because it's in the first layer. But if I drag this layer, so I need to drag up the other layers. You cannot drag down just yet, but you can see here that now the sky is on top of the other layers. And something that you can see here is that if I actually select the layer, the background layer, I can rename it to whatever I want, and I can select if I want to use the camera or not. So if I mark to use the camera, you can see that now my my sky is just another object in the world, because of course it's using the camera. But if I uncheck this, it will fill the entire screen. And this is very useful for making like UI, for example. I can literally add an object here on top, and I can change the scale of this object. Let me make it smaller and move it around. Oops, it's not, this is something work in progress. I did not realize that dragging will not gonna work if I was not using the camera. Anyways, you can position your object here and use this as like a button or something like that. This is very useful for UI. So let me delete this object, right click and delete. And let's go back to the background layer, because I can set a tint to it, and I can even select the alpha of it. And if I reduce the alpha, you can see that this object gets semi-transparent. That's very useful for a vignette or something like that. And if I move this layer back to the background. Let me move it up so it's in the background. Let's say that I want to have the boxes to be a little bit like reddish. I can select the entire box layer and just make it a little bit reddish. And every single object inside this layer will be reddish, which is pretty cool. And if I select this layer again and make it a little bit transparent, like semi-transparent, you can see that it works just fine. So if I select any box here, this one, and put this on top of the player, you can see that I can kind of see the player. And if I move this boxes layer up, you can see that I cannot, the player is on top of it. So very easy to do, very easy to organize your project, and of course to make whatever you want. Let me go back to the boxes and make it full, null, transparent, and white. And I can, of course, tint an object. For example, this box, I can select the texture, but I can also select the color here. So I can do this with this individual object just fine as well, which is pretty cool. If you ask me, I do have the ground layer. And that's basically it. It's very simple to use this engine. You can add an object here. To a layer, you can add a layer here, clicking new layer, and then you can add objects to it. You can drag this. The only thing that I did not made in this specific release was point and click to select. I know it's annoying, but you need to select the objects here in the hierarchy tab, if I know how to pronounce that. But I will add this in the future, okay? You can duplicate this object by right-clicking on it and clicking duplicate, or you can just move the object around by holding Alt key, just like Unreal Engine does, by the way, and then you will create a new copy. That's very useful for level design, of course. Let me delete this entire layer, so I'm deleting this, and let me go back to the ground layer, and let's say that I want to add a couple more grounds. Can go ahead here in this game object, and I can press Alt to create another copy, but you can see that it's very hard to fit this object into the other. Well, what I can do is hold Ctrl key and move the object around, and when I release the left mouse button, it's gonna snap to the grid. It's gonna try his best to snap to the grid. So if I hold Ctrl and Alt, I can very easily start making this level. And it too is snap just fine. Oops, I don't want this object. Here we go. So very simple to do the logic here in like the level design and everything you want here. I will add more options in the future, like grid here, so you can figure out what's going on. And there's no drag and drop at the moment, so I cannot like select this platform and drop it here. It's going to be very useful. But again, I did this engine in 30 hours. So it's very like, it's kind of okay to not have a bunch of new stuff because it's work in progress, right? I'll add this later on if you guys enjoy using it. But let's go to the best part. I do have here the player and how to do logic in this engine. I can here for every object that I select, and that includes the scene. So if I select the scene here, you can see, oh, by the way, I do have a bunch of options here. The camera, which is what I'm moving. I can even rotate the camera around, which is pretty cool. If I hold Control, I can type a number. I can select the gravity. So if I make this gravity on the x-axis and I play the game, you can see that every object goes to the right side because, well, the gravity was configured like that. And I do have the background color. You cannot see the background right now because the background here layer is covering everything. But if I change this and change the background color, you will be able to see this in action. So everything here appears in the details tab, and I have the position, the transform, position, rotation, and scale. I have the sprite, and I have the physics tab that I can select if I want the object to be a ghost, a static, or a dynamic object. Basically, everything that falls is dynamic, and everything that does not fall, but cast collision is statics, but everything that does not, like cast collision, is ghost, okay? I can select fixed rotation, so this player will not gonna rotate as it collides with stuff, which is something that I want. And I can even select the masks here for the objects. And that's why the player was not colliding with those boxes. You can see here that the player will not, oops. I need to implement like a no sleeping option here because at the moment this happens sometimes, but the player is not going to collide with these boxes here, unless it wants to. Oh, actually, it will collide with the boxes, I'm sorry, but those right boxes here will not gonna collide between themselves, as you can see here. Because if I select one of those boxes, you can see that it does belong to the category 1, but does not collide with the category 1, meaning that, well, they're not going to collide with each other. If I select here to collide with the category 1, here it's bit 1, and I need to do this for every other box as well. Where's the bottom one? Here we go. You can see that those boxes will collide with each other just fine. Okay, and I can do all sorts of crazy stuff with that. Let me make the player does not collide with this, but I don't think this box belongs to the category 1, so let me make this up, and you can see the player not colliding with the boxes just fine. And I don't know if you noticed it, but if I play the game, I can literally edit the game in real time. For example, let me make the boxes on top of the player, and you can see the players here. I can literally edit the game while I play the game, which is pretty cool. So let me quit the game, and of course when you quit, it undoes what it did. And the best part here is that I can write logic here in Python. So if I go and ahead and select the player and select the construction script, take a look at that, I can literally write Python script here. So this is the procedure that will work in the beginning of this player existence, just to construct the player. That's the name I've added it, and this is based on Unreal Engine's names. But I may change this because I was talking to a friend who tested this engine, and he said, well, you might as well just do like a tick script here, because this is like a script that runs when the object starts, but you can add, like, you might as well add another script like that that runs every frame. And if you do that, you're not gonna need to create components anymore. And well, that's a very interesting idea, because right now what I'm doing here is I'm adding to the object.component a character.object component, okay, a character component, I'm sorry, and it receives the object as a parameter, okay. And what this character component does, if I go ahead here and select my scripts, I can see the character movement, and if I click here, I can edit this script just fine. This text editor is a little bit sketchy at the moment, like it does not work very well. As you can see, like the color highlights here are a little bit like odd, and if you click here, it's work in progress, but I think it's better than not, right? But you can see here that I do have a character class that is a component, and it does have a start and an update method. And in the update, I'm basically grabbing the engine input and seeing if the player is pressing D or A and moving left or right based on that. So it's a very simple component that I'm basically creating here, so I can go ahead into the player and edit. And by the way, you can literally create my super component that inherits from the engine.component. So you can literally create custom components here on the fly, and of course add it to the object.components. Here we go. So I've added another component to the player, and if I press play game, nothing seems to happen. But if I go ahead and open the console, you can see here that I do have the working output, and this is a bunch of logs here saying that I was trying to export something. Anyways, before I started recording this video. But it's working, and you can type Python scripts just like that. It's very simple, and that's honestly basically everything that you need to know about this engine. You can literally create scenes. So let me create a new scene here. You can add objects. So this is an object. You can add a script to it. Oh, by the way, there's a small optimization here. We can disable the run logic of the objects to make it a little bit better and more efficient. And if I go ahead here in general, I can select a texture to it. Let me put like a fence texture, something like that. I can change the scaling. Oh, there's even a parenting system. I forgot to show that, but let me go ahead into my main scene. This is, for example, the player. But let's say that I want to add another object. So let me add another object here, game object 1. And if I drag and drop it to the player, it's going to be a child of the player. And I can like set a custom position or something like that. Of course, I can move it around just fine. And the key here is if I press play game, you will see that this will work. Oh, it sounds like the game engine just crashed. I'm not sure. Oops, the engine crashed. It's still work in progress, of course, but you can see it's very simple and you can do basically anything. Of course, you can import here images. I forgot to show that. And then you're gonna prompt this OS message here for you to export, to import, of course, the images, and then you can use this in your project. Very simple. I'm planning to add some tutorials here in this channel soon. And this simple engine is literally available for you to test it right now. I've sent like some alpha builds on Discord, and by the way, huge thank you to everyone who helped me on Discord to test this engine, because after the 33 hours that it took me to create this engine, I did take some time to make sure it works on every computer, and it had some problems because I forgot some stuff. So I fixed everything thanks to the UI, to the Discord community, not the UI one. So thank you everyone that is in my Discord. Links for this is in the description of this video, and if you also want to learn how to make this entire game engine, I'm making the full course on how to do that, and I'll leave the link in the description for you to put your email in and get notified when it gets done, because, well, it may take some weeks from now yet, so make sure you don't miss this opportunity, because I'm very excited about this. This engine is very complete and very fun to do. And leave in the comments what you think about this. I'm thinking about doing like an update video on this engine, adding icons, because at the moment there's no icon. You can see here, if I select anything, there's literally 0 icons, and that it's very easy to do. And adding a bunch more stuff to this engine, like text handling, because there's no text handling as well, and I think it's very important to have text handling. And of course, like the point and click here to select stuff, it's very important as well. So very minor stuff, but I'm very happy on how this engine turned out, and I hope you enjoy it. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel to not lose the complete time lapse, because I think it's gonna be very fun to watch. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I see you in the next video.